Have you ever wondered what it would feel like if your heart tried to speak to you not with words, but with a soft warning, and you were completely alone when it happened? It's a question that lingers quietly in the back of many minds, especially for those of us over 60 who live alone or find ourselves spending more time in solitude than we ever expected. We know our bodies have changed. We feel it in the way we breathe, the way we climb stairs, even in the stillness of the night. And yet, the thought of something going wrong when no one else is around, that's the fear we often push aside. The truth is, a heart attack doesn't always begin with drama. Sometimes it begins with a whisper, a strange tightness in the jaw, a breath that doesn't feel full, a sudden drop of energy that makes you sit down without knowing why. It doesn't announce itself like in the movies. It slips in quietly. And if we're not listening, we may not get another chance. But today is not about fear. It's about preparation. It's about courage, knowledge, and dignity, even when no one else is around. In this video, I'll walk you through 7 powerful things you can do to survive a heart attack even if you're completely alone. These are not just medical facts, they're life-preserving truths, told with care, grounded in science, and wrapped in real stories from people just like you. And at the very end, I'll share one story that I believe will stay with you long after this video ends, a reminder that even in solitude, you are not helpless. If you've ever worried about being alone in an emergency, please comment number 1 below. If you've never really thought about it before, write 0. I would love to hear from both sides. And if this message speaks to you, even in a small way, I invite you to subscribe and tap the notification bell so we never lose touch. Let's begin. Tip 1. The silent signs when your body speaks softly. Listen closely. It wasn't painful. It was just strange, like something heavy sitting in the wrong place. Margaret, 71, recalling the moment before her heart attack. Most people think a heart attack feels like a sledgehammer to the chest, sharp, unmistakable, loud. But for many older adults, it doesn't happen that way. Instead, it arrives gently, quietly, like fog settling over a familiar street. And because it doesn't scream, it's often ignored. Margaret, a retired teacher, had just finished her afternoon tea. She wasn't climbing stairs or exerting herself. She wasn't upset or nervous. But suddenly, there was this odd pressure behind her sternum. Not sharp, not excruciating, just wrong. Her arms felt heavier. Her breath seemed shorter, like the room had lost some of its air. And her first thought wasn't, "I'm having a heart attack." It was, "Maybe I need to lie down." This is how the heart often whispers its warnings, not with drama, but with discomfort that's easy to explain away. For older adults, especially women, heart attacks may not start in the chest at all. They may start in the neck, in the jaw, in the back. They may arrive as nausea, dizziness, sudden fatigue, or a strange sense of unease. And because we've been conditioned to wait for the Hollywood version clutching the chest, falling to the floor, we miss the real version. But your body doesn't owe you drama. It offers clues, gentle, quiet ones, and you don't need to panic when you feel them. You just need to listen and act. So here's what to remember. If you ever feel a heavy pressure in your chest that doesn't go away, if your arms feel weak or your jaw feels tight, if you suddenly break out in a cold sweat for no reason, or if you just feel off and can't explain why, pause, breathe, and pay attention. Because when the heart speaks, even in whispers, your first chance to respond is also your best chance to survive. Let me say this clearly. It's better to overreact than to overlook. So many older adults, especially those of us used to pushing through discomfort, ignore these signs. We say things like, "It's probably just gas. I'll wait it out. I don't want to bother anyone." But a heart attack doesn't wait, and it doesn't care how polite or independent you are. Margaret listened. She called for help before the real pain began, and that small act, recognizing the whisper, likely saved her life. What about you? Could you tell the difference between a bad day and your body asking for help. Because in the quiet early minutes of a heart attack, the decision to listen or not becomes the first door you walk through. And what lies beyond that door is not fear, but the possibility of survival. Let's carry that awareness with us now. As we move into the next part, what to do the moment your instincts say, something's not right. Tip 2. Don't be a hero. Be prepared to call before it's too late. There's a quiet belief that many older adults carry that calling for help makes them a burden. It's a belief born from decades of self-reliance, of not wanting to make a fuss, of being the one others leaned on. So when something feels wrong, the first instinct isn't always to act, it's to wait, to see if it passes, to minimize it, to stay strong. But here's a truth that cannot be softened. Time is the most precious resource during a heart attack, and hesitation is its greatest thief. Every second that passes without action allows damage to deepen. The longer the heart goes without oxygen, the more permanent the harm becomes. Waiting to see if it gets better is not caution, it's a risk. And no matter how much courage or toughness you've built over a lifetime, no one, not even the strongest, can overcome a failing heart by sheer willpower. Calling 911 the moment you suspect something is wrong is not an act of panic. It's an act of wisdom. It's not overreacting. It's trusting your body when it's asking for help. It's stepping out of the illusion that you must always handle everything alone. There is no medal for suffering quietly, no honor in ignoring symptoms. The people who love you want you alive, not stoic. Emergency services exist for moments like these when life hangs in the balance and every heartbeat counts. What stops so many people from reaching for the phone? Embarrassment, fear of looking foolish, worry that it might not be serious after all. But if it isn't, that's okay. Emergency responders would rather arrive for a false alarm than arrive too late. You don't need to be absolutely sure to make the call. All you need is to respect your instincts and to value your life enough to act on them. This decision to call, to not delay, is one of the few choices you control in the chaos of a heart attack. It's the moment you reclaim power from fear, not by fighting it, but by surrendering to care. If your breathing shifts, if pressure builds in your chest, if something inside you says, this isn't normal, reach for the phone, not to explain, not to wait, just call. There is strength in vulnerability. There is wisdom in being prepared. And there is peace in knowing that you've chosen life over silence. Because the sooner the call is made, the sooner help arrives. And with help, hope enters the room steady, trained, ready to meet you where you are. So don't be a hero, be ready. In the next part, we'll talk about a small, simple action you can take before help arrives, one that has been proven to buy your heart just a little more time. Tip 3. The power of a tiny pill. How one aspirin can change everything. Sometimes, what stands between life and loss is not a miracle, but a moment of preparation. And one of the most underrated tools you can have ready, especially after the age of 60, is a single aspirin. It seems too simple, doesn't it? One small pill, but the science behind it is quietly powerful. Aspirin doesn't prevent the heart attack from beginning, but it may help limit the damage once it starts. It works by thinning the blood just enough to reduce the size of a clot, giving blood a chance to flow more freely to the heart muscle under stress. When a heart attack begins, what's often happening is that a blood clot has formed in a narrowed artery, cutting off the oxygen supply. The heart, deprived of what it needs to function, begins to suffer injury, and the longer that blockage continues, the more permanent that injury becomes. Chewing an aspirin, not swallowing, but chewing, allows the medication to enter the bloodstream more rapidly. It's not about comfort. It's not about habit. It's about giving your heart even a few extra minutes of relief while help is on the way. But here's the part many forget. In an emergency, those minutes are everything. You don't need to be a doctor to save your own life. You just need to be ready. Keep a bottle of uncoated aspirin in places that are easy to reach: a nightstand, a kitchen drawer, your purse, or your coat pocket. Somewhere you won't need to search when seconds matter. Make sure the expiration date is still valid. Make sure the dosage is right typically. One standard strength 325 milligrams tablet, and know whether you have any allergies or contraindications to taking it, such as being on certain blood thinners. Aspirin is not magic. It won't stop the heart attack, but it might slow the damage. It might keep blood flowing just enough until professional care can take over. In those precious moments between calling for help and hearing the siren in the distance, that little pill can be the quiet difference between recovery and irreversible harm. So think of it not as medicine, but as a lifeline you've prepared in advance. A small gesture of self-care that carries weight far beyond its size. And perhaps just as important, having it ready sends a message to yourself, to the people who love you, that you value your life enough to prepare for the moment you hope will never come. Because being ready doesn't mean living in fear. It means living with respect for your body, for your future, and for the many moments still ahead. And now that you've taken the first two actions, calling for help and taking aspirin, what should you do next? In the next section, we'll explore how simply sitting still may be the strongest thing you can do to protect your heart. Tip 4. Sit down, stay still, stay alive. There is a natural impulse that rises during moments of distress to move, to act, to do something. But when the heart begins to fail, movement is no longer your ally. Stillness becomes your greatest strength. After calling for help and taking aspirin, the next step may feel counterintuitive. You sit, you stop, you let your body rest completely. Why does this matter so much? Because your heart, at this moment, is working harder than it has in a very long time. It's struggling against a blockage, trying to push life through narrowed passageways, and every step you take, every drawer you open, every task you rush to complete only demands more from it. More oxygen, more effort, more risk. This is not the time to finish folding laundry, not the time to unlock every door or gather your medications, not the time to prove you can push through. This is the time to let go. Find the safest, calmest position possible. Sit upright with your back supported and your feet flat on the floor. If dizziness or faintness creeps in, lie on your side with a pillow or folded blanket under your head. Keep your body aligned and open. Avoid slumping, crossing your arms, or curling in. Allow your lungs and heart room to breathe. What may feel like doing nothing is, in fact, everything. Because when you give your heart a moment to settle, to slow down even slightly, you give life a chance to hold on. There's another layer to this stillness, one that goes deeper than physical calm. When you stop moving, you can start listening to your breath, to your heartbeat, to your own presence. And there's strength in that. A kind of sacred quiet where fear begins to soften and clarity returns. It's in this stillness that you remind yourself, I am not panicking. I am responding. I am not helpless. I am taking care. This posture, this pause, is not a weakness. It is wisdom. It says, I know the fight is not out there right now, it's inside me, and I won't add fuel to the fire. So sit or lie down. Let gravity hold your body and let your breath find its rhythm. Nothing else matters in this moment more than reducing the strain on your heart and preserving your energy for healing. You've already done the hardest part, noticing, acting, choosing life. Now, let your body do what it's trying so hard to do, survive. And while you rest, know this stillness is not surrender. It's preparation for the care that's on its way, for the breath you'll take tomorrow, for the peace that follows every storm. And in the time that remains before help arrives, there's one more thing you can do. One small act that may help emergency responders reach you faster and begin treatment without delay. Let's talk about that next. Tip 5. Leave the door open. Literally, in a life-threatening emergency, time doesn't ticket pounds. Every moment becomes sacred. Every delay becomes dangerous. And in those critical minutes between calling for help and hearing the sirens draw near, there's one quiet act that may save even more time than you realize: unlocking your door. It's easy to overlook, especially when the heart is in distress. But a locked front door, even just a latch or a deadbolt, can slow down paramedics just enough to make the difference between immediate treatment and a few lost minutes your heart cannot spare. Emergency teams are trained to break in if necessary. Of course, they will do what they must. But forced entry always takes time. It causes damage. It creates sudden noise and movement that may startle you if you're nearby and vulnerable. And in some cases, those added seconds can interrupt the seamless care you desperately need. That's why, if you still have the strength, and only if it's safe to do so, getting to the door and unlocking it could be one of the most thoughtful gifts you give your rescuers. It tells them, "Come in. I'm here and I'm ready to be helped." If you live alone or in a gated community, it's worth thinking about this long before a crisis ever occurs. Where are your keys? Can someone nearby access a spare set in an emergency? Do you have a code lock or smart entry option? Is your house number clearly visible from the street at night? These small details may seem like background noise during everyday life, but in a medical emergency, they become crucial. Preparation is not paranoia. It's a form of self-respect. You're not just leaving the door open for the EMTs, you're opening a path for healing, for survival, for relief. Of course, there may be times when walking to the door is too much. If your breathing is shallow, if your vision is fading, if your body feels unstable, don't push it. Your life is more important than a lock. Sit or lie, back down. Focus on your breath. Help will find its way in, one way or another. But if the distance is short, if your body can manage it safely, then that simple twist of a lock becomes a symbol of trust in the people coming and in your own decision to survive. And when they arrive, every second saved is a second closer to care. So when you're planning for the what-ifs of aging alone, don't forget this very human detail. Your door is not just a barrier, it's a bridge. And sometimes that bridge needs to be open before you can cross into safety. In the next part, we'll explore a powerful yet often forgotten tool that may speak for you even if you can no longer speak for yourself. Tip 6. Let your phone speak for you. In moments of crisis, the human voice is often the first to disappear. As panic rises or breath shortens, the ability to speak, to explain, to describe, to even whisper for help can slip away. That's why, in today's world, your phone is not just a device, it's a lifeline. And if used wisely, it can speak for you even when you no longer can. Most smartphones now have built-in tools that can quietly save your life. Features like speakerphone and emergency medical ID may seem like tech gimmicks to some, but for those of us over 60, they are quiet miracles in our pocket. Let's start with something simple. The speakerphone. If you've called 911 and you're waiting for help, turn on speaker mode. This allows you to rest your hands. No need to grip the phone. No pressure on your chest. No tension in your fingers. You can lie down or sit back, breathe more freely, and let the dispatcher hear you without struggle. Your hands stay calm, your voice stays steady, and your body stays safer. Beyond that, keeping the line open on speaker allows the emergency responder to hear more than just your words. They may catch the sound of your breathing, your movements, or even the silence between, which tells them volumes about your condition. It also gives you the comfort of not being entirely alone in that moment. There is a voice on the other end, a guide, a witness, a lifeline. And then there's something even more powerful, your medical ID. Hidden in the settings of most smartphones, whether iPhone or Android, is a place to store your essential medical information. Name, date of birth, blood type, allergies, medications, chronic conditions, emergency contacts. What's remarkable is that first responders can access this information from your phone's lock screen without needing your passcode. Even if you're unconscious, even if you can't move, this means they can avoid giving you something you're allergic to. They can contact your loved ones. They can know, within seconds, what they're dealing with and respond with precision instead of guesswork. It's a 5-minute setup that can protect your body when your voice can't. And the best part, it's free. Already there. Already waiting. You just have to take a few minutes. maybe this afternoon, and fill it out. You're not doing it because you expect the worst. You're doing it because your future self may need someone, anyone, to speak on your behalf. You don't need to be tech savvy to use this. Ask someone to help or watch a simple guide online. But don't let this quiet power go unused. In the end, your phone becomes more than just a screen or a tool. It becomes your digital advocate, a presence that watches over you in silence, ready to shout when you no longer can. So yes, make the call, but also prepare. Let your phone say what your breath might not. Let it hold your story, your safety, your name. Because in those moments of uncertainty, where seconds stretch and voices falter, knowing that something, even something small, is still speaking for you, brings a calmness no technology can replace. And now, let's turn inward to a power that's been with you from the beginning, not a pill, not a phone, but your breath itself. In the next part, you'll learn how to use it to help your heart hold steady, even through the storm. Tip 7. The breath that bought me time. There's a moment during every crisis when the outside world begins to blur, the sounds feel distant, the air feels heavier, and thoughts come faster than the heart can follow. It is in this moment that fear tries to take control. And when that happens, your most powerful anchor is not a pill, a call, or a machine. It's your breath. Yes, something so ordinary can become extraordinary. When panic rises, it changes your body. Your muscles tense. Your heart races. Your breath becomes shallow and rapid. And with each panicked inhale, you send a signal to your body. We're in danger. The heart responds by beating faster. Blood pressure climbs. Oxygen struggles to reach where it's needed most. But here's the healing truth. You can interrupt that spiral. You can calm the storm gently, naturally through one breath, then another. Controlled breathing isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about gently telling your nervous system, you're not alone. We can survive this. Start here. Breathe in slowly through your nose, count to 4 in your mind. Hold it just for a moment, a soft pause. Then exhale gently through your mouth, counting to 6. Do it again. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands loosen. Let your belly rise and fall like a quiet wave. You don't need to get it perfect. You don't need to be spiritual or trained or even calm. You just need to stay with it, one breath at a time. And while you do, something remarkable happens inside you. Your heart begins to slow not because the crisis is over, but because your body has remembered something ancient, stillness in the storm. This isn't a theory, it's biology. When you breathe with intention, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you designed to restore, not react. It helps prevent the heart from slipping into dangerous rhythms. It keeps oxygen flowing more smoothly, and it buys you something precious: time. Time for help to arrive, time for damage to be reduced, time for survival to become more likely. But it's not just about science. It's also about spirit. There's a sacredness to breathing when your chest feels tight, when the unknown hovers close. With every breath, you remind yourself, I am still here. I am still choosing life. And even if no one else is in the room, even if your voice is gone, and the sirens haven't yet come, your breath keeps singing that quiet song of endurance. You can practice this anytime, in your favorite chair, in bed before sleep, when you feel anxious in traffic or in waiting rooms. The more familiar it becomes, the more your body will return to it instinctively when it matters most. Think of it like a friend inside you, always present, always ready, a steady hand on your back when fear tries to take over. In the end, you may not be able to control what your heart does during a heart attack, but you can control what you do with your breath. And sometimes that single act, that gentle exhale, is enough to hold you here, just long enough for healing to arrive. You've now taken the steps that matter most in the first few minutes of a heart attack. But what happens after? In the next section, we'll explore how your daily habits, Your quiet preparations can give you strength before the crisis ever begins. We've now walked through the urgent steps, the actions you take when every second matters. But what if I told you that your greatest defense doesn't begin with an emergency, but with the quiet choices you make every single day? In this next part, let's explore how the habits we build in peace can become the very things that protect us in crisis. Tip 8. What you practice in peace, you'll use in crisis. There's a quiet truth that many people overlook. Your body remembers. Not just the pain, not just the years, but the patterns, the rituals, the small habits repeated day after day. And when crisis strikes, those habits often become your greatest source of protection. You see, when a heart attack begins, when everything feels like it's spinning too fast, there is no time left to think, the body will reach for whatever it knows best. Not what it's read in an article, not what it's promised to do someday, but what it has practiced. So ask yourself gently, what has your body practiced lately? What has your nervous system learned to do when you feel overwhelmed? What does your breath do when fear rises? This is not a judgment. It's an invitation to begin preparing not just for the worst, but for resilience. Because what you practice in times of peace becomes instinct in moments of chaos. If you practice shallow, anxious breathing, that's where your body will go first. But if you practice deep, slow exhales even for 5 minutes a day, your body will remember. If you've practiced stillness, mindfulness, gentle stretches, gratitude, these two will rise up when you need them. And the beauty of it is it's never too late to start. There's a kind of wisdom that comes with age, knowing that urgency and panic rarely bring healing, that true strength lies in steadiness, in rhythm, in routines that ground us long before anything goes wrong. So maybe today or tomorrow morning, you sit for a few minutes with one hand on your chest, one on your belly, just breathing. Or maybe you take a quiet walk, not to get somewhere fast, but to remember what it feels like to be alive and steady. Or maybe, before you sleep, you open your phone and set up your emergency medical ID, not because you're afraid, but because you're ready. Each of these acts, though small, become the foundation your future self may stand on. Preparation doesn't always look like emergency kits and alarm systems. Sometimes, it looks like choosing calm every morning, like drinking water with intention, like placing an aspirin near your bed, not out of fear but out of care. You don't need to prepare like a soldier. You can prepare like a gardener, planting small, quiet seeds that bloom when life turns unpredictable. And this kind of preparation doesn't just save lives. It changes how you live. Because once you begin honoring your body each day, once you build a rhythm of breath, rest, hydration, movement, and awareness, you stop seeing your body as a burden and begin seeing it as a companion. You build trust with yourself. And in those moments where everything feels out of your control, your body becomes a place of refuge, not panic. There is a quiet power in older adults who've practiced peace. You can feel it when they speak slowly, when their eyes soften, when their hands move with intention. They've weathered storms, yes, but more importantly, they've learned not to become the storm. That's what this is about. It's not just surviving a heart attack. It's about living in a way that gives your heart its best chance to keep beating, even when life throws the unexpected. So let's turn this from a checklist into a lifestyle. Let's start practicing stillness now, not just in moments of fear. Let's rehearse our calm, not out of anxiety, but out of devotion to life. Let's make breathing deeply as natural as brushing our teeth. Let's let peace become familiar again. Because when the day comes and we pray it doesn't, when your heart whispers its warning, your body will not panic. It will remember. It will return to the breath, the stillness, the readiness you gave it long before. And that, dear friend, may be the most powerful thing you do. In the next section, we'll explore a final truth that even when you're completely alone, you are not powerless. There is one more shift in mindset that changes everything. Tip 9. You're not powerless. Even when you're alone, there's a quiet fear that lives inside many hearts, especially as we grow older. What if something happens to me and no one is there. It's not just the fear of pain. It's the fear of solitude in the most vulnerable moment. The fear of slipping away without a witness, without a hand to hold, without someone to say, I'm here. But here is a truth that I hope reaches you gently today. Being alone does not mean being powerless. Powerlessness is not the same as solitude. They may look alike on the surface, but they are worlds apart. Powerlessness is when you've given up all control, when you've stopped believing your actions matter, when you've surrendered your voice before the world has asked for your silence. But being alone, that's something different. Being alone can also mean being aware, being prepared, being rooted in the deep wisdom that you've gathered over decades of living, loving, and learning. You are not just someone waiting for help. You are someone who has spent a lifetime becoming resourceful, resilient, and quietly strong. You've already lived through losses no one saw, fought battles no one heard, picked yourself up from dark corners and kept going, not because it was easy, but because you chose to. That same strength still lives in you. So when you imagine yourself facing a heart attack alone, not surrounded by family, not sitting in a hospital waiting room, but in your living room or bedroom or car, I want you to know this. You still have you still have time, and you still have power. You can recognize the signs. You can call for help. You can chew an aspirin. You can steady your breath. You can unlock the door. You can let your phone speak. You can lie still and let your body fight for you because it will. And you can do all of this not in fear, but in quiet authority. Because solitude doesn't strip you of dignity. It doesn't erase your value. In fact, it might be the very place where your strength becomes clearest. We live in a culture that often tells us aging equals weakness, that living alone equals isolation. But the truth is, many of the strongest, most mindful people I've ever known are those who spend much of their time in stillness, not because they have no one, but because they've made peace with their own company. And from that peace comes a power few understand. So if you've ever worried, what would I do if I was alone during a heart attack? Know this: you are not without defenses, you are not without preparation, and above all, you are not without hope. You carry within you the ability to respond, to act, to care for yourself in the moments that matter most. You may not have a crowd beside you, but you have knowledge, you have breath, you have presence, and you have the sacred memory of everything you've already survived. What happens in the minutes between crisis and help is not just a matter of medical training. It's a matter of presence. And presence is something you've cultivated for years in quiet mornings, in gentle reflections, in the long silences after loss. So trust that. Let it guide you. You are not waiting to be rescued. You are choosing to remain, to stay, to fight, to breathe, to live. And that choice, even when no one is watching, is what makes you powerful. Now, as we come to the final part of this journey, I invite you to reflect with me not just on the steps we've learned, but on the deeper meaning beneath them all. Because surviving a heart attack is not just about beating the odds, it's about reclaiming your life, breath by breath. Let's close with stillness and something more. So here we are. Dear friend, at the quiet end of a journey that began with fear, but now settles into something much more powerful: clarity, courage, and a kind of peace that only comes from knowing you are prepared. We've walked through 7 simple, life-saving steps. But this video was never just about what to do. It was about something deeper, something quieter that too often gets overlooked in conversations about emergencies. It was about believing that your life is worth protecting, even if you're alone, even if no one is watching, even if your hands are trembling and your heart is unsure. Because when we feel vulnerable, the mind plays tricks. It tells us we're too old, too fragile, too slow. But the heart, your beautiful, determined heart, still beats with a will to live, and you have more power than you realize. The truth is, surviving a heart attack alone isn't just about calling 911 or taking aspirin. It's about the spirit with which you face the moment. It's about how you breathe when everything feels uncertain. It's about how you've learned, day by day, to treat your own life like something sacred, not in theory, but in practice. And yes, there will be days when the fear still whispers. That's okay. Let it whisper. And then respond with wisdom, with breath, with stillness, with readiness. Because these are not the actions of someone afraid. They are the actions of someone awake. Someone who understands that aging does not make you weak, it makes you wise enough to know what matters most. So let me ask you gently now, what part of this story made you stop for a moment? What truth did your body lean into a little more than the rest? I invite you to share that in the comments below. A sentence, a reflection, even just a number. I read every word, and I believe that when we share what touches us, we help others feel less alone too. And if you're still here, still with me, I want to thank you, truly, for choosing not to turn away from this topic, for facing the question that so many fear, what would I do if I was alone, and most of all, for reminding me and yourself that we are never truly powerless. You now carry something precious, not just knowledge, but preparation, not just answers, but a plan. And that, my friend, is no small thing. It means you've taken back control of the one thing that truly matters, your life. So take a deep breath, feel your chest rise, and as you exhale, say quietly inside yourself, I'm ready. Because readiness is not about expecting the worst. It's about living with the quiet confidence that even if the worst comes, you will not meet it helplessly. You will meet it with dignity, with grace, with presence. And if this video gave you even 1 ounce of that confidence, please let us stay connected. Click subscribe, turn on the bell. Not for me, but for you. Because the next story we share might not just prepare you, it might lift you. In our upcoming video, we'll explore something just as powerful, how joy, laughter, and purpose protect the heart just as much as medicine ever could. Trust me, you won't want to miss that. Until then, may you live each day with awareness. May you treat your breath like the gift it is. And may you never forget, even when life feels uncertain. Even when you're alone, you are not without strength. We'll meet again soon. Be well, be safe, be deeply, truly alive.